How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your weekly forecast of what the heck is going on in the universe for July 16th through July 23rd. Now, this may sound weird to you guys, but there's really not a whole lot going on this week. There's a couple of spicy events that are going to kind of, unfold. However, there's nothing really catastrophic or amazing happening this week. It's all still building up towards like next week when we have Mercury retrograde and the eclipses happen and everything else. But to kind of give you guys a good run through of what is going to go on this week, I would first like to start off by saying thank you guys for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, whatever it is that you do with my videos. Thank you guys so much for just being here with me. Thank you guys for being alive with me and enjoying this fabulous time here on Earth under all of this chaos and stress. It's been a pleasure. And thank you guys for checking me out if you haven't before, if this is your first time watching. And thank you to my patrons over at Patreon who support me and, help me make this channel possible. And to all of you guys watching my videos, thank you. So to start off with Monday, not a lot's happening today. We have the moon in Virgo, and it's leaving a conjunction with Venus, which was so beautiful last night. If you were up around, or if you were outside around dusk, you would see around dusk, you would see the moon conjunct Venus, and it was just absolutely beautiful. But it's going away from that conjunction to Venus, and it's starting to oppose Neptune, and that's like that's all that's happening on Monday. And so when you have the moon in Virgo where, you're trying to kind of, I like to use the moon in Virgo as like, it's that day, that time period, like the first, like it's like the 2 or 3 days where the moon's in Virgo. It's like you're trying to get all the pieces together. You're trying to get everything organized. You want to get back into a system. You're trying to find some way to channel that mercurial energy of thought process and making things a lot more clear in that grounded, earthy Virgo energy of like, hey, let's make things simple. Let's make things understandable. Let's make things concrete. Let's make things I like using lists are good Virgo stuff. But anyway, it's opposing Neptune. So with this whole Neptune and Pisces thing, of course, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's going to be a little bit easier today to kind of take the facade off everything and be able to kind of see things for what they are. So use that to your advantage, especially as we go on through this week, because I feel like there's going to be a lot, like, especially like on things like, what is it, like Thursday? Yeah, like Thursday, there's going to be a lot being brought up. But with the moon being in Virgo, it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of like a good day to get your stuff together and get into just putting all the pieces together. But on Tuesday, we're going to have the moon entering Libra. It's going to trine Mars and square Saturn, which is going to be interesting because once the moon goes into Libra, things are going to play out a little bit easier. Things are going to be a little bit more calmer and relaxing, especially because it's trining Mars. It's going to help you kind of get the people to, not necessarily get the people together, but kind of just get yourself together on a intellectual level and a social level to be able to kind of mitigate this Mars and Aquarius retrograde thing going on. Because as Mars is retrograde, it conjuncts the South Node this week, and it's about to have that eclipse on top of it. It's getting kind of hectic. It's kind of wanting us, like, it's really bringing up a lot of things that maybe we're not necessarily, I don't want to say letting go of or focusing on, but it's kind of like, hey, maybe we need to find what's going to work best for us and not necessarily best for everyone else. Maybe it's time that we kind of, put ourselves first in that relationship versus, worrying about other people's needs and stuff like that. And I'm not saying be selfish with this energy. However, this is the time to be more focused on what your needs and what your wants are and what's going to take care of you the best way. And as the moon goes into Libra and it trines Mars, it's going to be a little bit easier to find that, I like to say, an excuse or to kind of weigh things out and see why you should be able to take that stance. But as it squares Saturn, it is going to be kind of difficult to maintain that relationship, to maintain that emotional integrity. With the moon being in Libra, we want things to be nice. We want things to be joyous. We want things to be Venusian. And it's squaring Saturn, where Saturn's like, hey, not everyone gets to win in this case. That's why I like looking at Capricorn and Saturn in Libra. It's kind of like not everyone gets to win their lawsuit. And sometimes it has to be directed towards other things. Sometimes, there's an overwhelming amount of energy that's going to bombard you versus the energy that you want to happen. And so with Saturn, retrograde in Capricorn, it's kind of like, hey, internally, we know that we need to be getting our shit together. We know where we need to create more structure and stability in our life, and especially more security, especially because it's trining Uranus and Taurus. The moon in Libra is just asking us, hey, what are we delegating? What are we really putting our actions to? Are we really, like with the moon in Libra trining Mars and retrograde, it's going to be really easy to give your energy away. But Saturn in Capricorn's like, hey, is that really worth it? Is, what are you getting out of it? Not necessarily saying, having expectations, but make sure that there's an equal energy trade there. And with Saturn in Capricorn, it's kind of like maybe be more conservative, be more decisive, be more integral with who you are and with what's going to serve you best rather than what's going to make everyone else happy. Then we go into Wednesday. The moon's going to continue squaring Saturn. It's going to square Pluto, which is kind of like, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to moon square Pluto. It's not that big of a deal, but it is going to be happening. So it'll be a little, I like to put it's kind of like having an Instagram filter that's a little bit more Plutonian. It's a little bit more raw. So it gives you that look of like, oh, Halloween. But besides that, literally nothing is happening on Wednesday. Thursday though, that's when the sun begins its opposition to Mars within that 10-degree orb, and that's a really big deal. Now, if you're like me and you're a night bird, you've been watching Mars since like April when it was conjuncting Saturn, it went from this really tiny little speck, like it was almost like Saturn was brighter than Mars, to where if you go outside now, Mars is the brightest thing in the night sky. It is absolutely insane to see, and Mars is so close to the Earth. And now that we have Mars actually starting its opposition to the sun, this is when that Mars energy really lights up. Oppositions, yes, you want to find a way to balance them, but generally there's always at least one winner. It's kind of like in an MMA fight. Like, they don't just go, well, you guys are both winners, you both get trophies. Like, no, someone usually like taps out or gets beaten to death. And with this Mars retrograde in Aquarius opposing the sun in Cancer, like while it's still in Cancer, you may feel like this Mars energy is really going to beat us up. The sun in Cancers right now, it's kind of like, we're being a little bit more protective of our energy and we're really exuberating that energy, but we're still sensitive. We're still like needing to take care of ourselves. And this Mars retrograde is just going to be kind of in our face starting on Thursday. It is going to be... what's also interesting about the sun opposed Mars is that the moon will then enter Scorpio, which will then oppose Uranus, and it will square the nodes. And I think that's an important thing to look at as we have the moon going into Scorpio before the lunar eclipse. And that's going to square the north node and the south node. It's going to make this conjunction to Jupiter. And this moon in Scorpio is going to be a little volatile. It's going to be a little bit more like, hey, this is serious. Hey, maybe I am holding on to some things. That Jupiter and Scorpio energy is going to come alive when the moon enters Scorpio and it starts making its conjunction to it. I believe its actual conjunction is on Friday, but on Thursday, once the moon enters Scorpio and we have Mars opposing the sun, things are going to get really raw and intense. Things are really going to be kind of like, hey, you need to make a decision now. Hey, you need to look at this through the most clear lens possible, and you can't emotionally attach to the manifestations of what's around you, but you've got to be willing to look more within you, look more with what's in part of your integrity, what's going to serve you, and what's a part of your truth. And when I say your truth, it doesn't matter what that is, but what is your truth? What is your what is what you need? What is what matters to you? What is serious to you? What is real to you? And as the moon, squares the nodes, it's going to be kind of like, which direction do I go? Do I stay in this more south node energy where Mars is at, which I would suggest not to, because Mars is right there. Mars severs, ties, heats up, cuts. He's next to the south node. It's like, maybe we don't want to go into the south node. We want to go more towards the north node, where the sun is going to start making its conjunction to and everything like that. So as the moon enters Scorpio, things are going to get a little bit real. Things are going to, you're going to see the point in the issue, and you're going to see the truth and the rawness of it. And don't be afraid to let go. And when I say let go, I'm talking about whatever expectation you were holding on to, whatever event you're going through. Don't be afraid to let go of that. Be real. Look at whatever situation's in front of you with as much authenticity as possible. Friday, moon's going to conjunct Jupiter. That's when it's going to be a little bit nicer, and you're going to have a little bit easier time letting go of those things and processing them and really reaping the benefits out of those, whatever benefits that you can. Then on Saturday, Mars is going to conjunct the south node again. Mercury is going to trine Uranus, and it's going to square the moon, which is funny because as the moon squares Mercury, while Mercury's in Leo, look, Mercury's in shadow in Leo. We want things to feel a certain way. We have these, It's like we're roaring. It's like we're the lion and we're roaring, but like no one's responding. And the moon in Scorpio is kind of like, why isn't this working? You know, I'm saying all of my affirmations. I'm in the right mindset that I need to be. What do I need to be looking at? And that's a really good question to ask yourself: is what do you need to be looking at? As the moon squares Mercury, it's going to have you kind of be a little bit more investigative of what you do need to be feeling. What is more of that truth? What is more of that Leo authenticity? Now, Mars will also conjunct the South Node again, which is kind of like, all right, you know which direction you'd be going in. It's that Leo direction, but Mercury there is kind of like not doing it right. It's kind of like the show. It's kind of like when you watch a movie. It was like, it was good, but it could have been done better. Now, with Sunday happening, Sunday is a very important day. It's the best day out of every single year. It's my birthday, and we begin Leo season. And we'll have the moon entering Sagittarius, where it's going to be fun, and it's going to be Leo season when things get hot and ready. So when the sun enters Leo, it's going to be kind of like this, oh, I don't want to be dramatic, but a big like, ugh, like it's time to roar, it's time to wake up, it's time to feel alive, because it's going to be conjuncting the North Node. It's the sun's opposing Mars right now. This is when all of the energy gets really intense, but it's nice because the moon will be in Sagittarius, where it's going to help us really feel that Leo energy a little bit more, rather than getting so beat up by like, you know, Mars and Jupiter and Uranus. So on Sunday, once the sun enters Leo, really reflect on what your beliefs are and not manipulate it, but tailor it towards what is going to be the most positive way to look at a situation, and how can you act on that positivity? How can you feel that positivity? How can you believe in it and show your belief to the universe? It's kind of like, you know, when people are like, you know, when you see people are like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get out of the situation, I'm just going to give it to God and see what happens. It's like the same thing, you know. Really trust this. Really, you know, find a positive way to go about this, and don't worry about it. Relax, you know. We're in the middle of a ton of retrogrades right now, which, you know, it happens every year, but it's not, we're in a process right now. It's not about moving forward. It's really about reflecting and deciding, really. So then on Monday, again, Venus is going to be opposing Neptune exactly, and that's a really big deal, where Venus is in Virgo. You know, she was trining Uranus, trining Saturn. Venus is really looking to find more value in our habits, find more value in the healthy side of things. Venus is really trying to find more value in being more specific, being more clear, being more concise. And as Venus starts to oppose Neptune, you know, let Neptune's facade and illusion come apart. You know, it's kind of like, it's funny how fog works. If you guys live in an area there's fog, it's like you turn on your brights and you can see, and it's like even worse to see. But let that fog clear up a little bit, be a little bit more specific on how you can do it. You know, turn on your fog lights, and maybe you could see a little bit clearer, because Neptune in Pisces is confusing. Neptune in Pisces is illusionary. Neptune in Pisces is a lot. It's very, you don't even know what's happening most of the time. And as Venus opposes it, really look at what you are valuing and what you're being consistent with, and if that is real or if that is not real. And I know that's kind of a general, broad statement, but it's going to be really easy to kind of decide between, you know, is this the way that things are versus is this the way that things are, by taking that Venus and Virgo energy and going, okay, what matters to me? What do I really value as far as what's going to be good for me? What's going to be consistent? What's going to reap rewards? What's going to be, how am I going to get the fruits of my labor? And also the moon will be squaring Venus and Neptune in between this. And as the moon goes through Sagittarius, squares Neptune, squares Venus, it kind of comes back down to, you know, what do you want in the light of Jupiter? When the moon is in Sagittarius, I swear to God, every time the moon's in Sagittarius, it doesn't matter what day it is, everyone is out downtown and partying. Like, I see it all the time. Like, even when I was living in Vegas, there'd be like no one downtown, you know, on a weekend, because the moon was like in, you know, Capricorn or something like that. But it'll be like a Tuesday and the moon's in Sag and everyone's going crazy. Now, with the moon being in Sagittarius, we're looking at things through this Jupiter light, you know. What is good? What can we be grateful for? What can we be excited for? What can we really see to understand? What can we seek to learn? What can we how can we shift our perspective on things? And as it squares Venus and Neptune, it's going to be a great day to really look at something new, learn something new, understand a different perspective, and see how that affects you and what that means for you. And that's kind of what's just happening this week. Like I said, it's not the biggest week. There are key turning points that do happen. But again, everything starts next week. It's like we kick off next week with the eclipse, the Mercury retrograde, and a lot more is going to come to fruition then. However, this week, you know, especially as the moon goes through Scorpio and squares the nodes, like get serious, get raw. The universe is going to throw it in your face because Mars is opposed to the sun. It's kind of like all of our problems are very much highlighted in the night sky, literally. So take this week with I like to say a grain of salt, because next week is something you'll want to take more seriously. However, at this time, don't be afraid to feel what this week is giving you. If it's giving you hell, feel it out. If it's giving you life, feel it out. If it's not giving you anything, feel that. Be with it. Because next week, it's like boom, boom, boom. So that's what I got for you guys. So thank you guys again for watching all my videos, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, being here with me. I'm sending you guys lots of love, light, abundance, and yeah, and I'll be seeing you guys next week.